Sup, everybody. Rom here for the Network, and today I'm going to give you my Red Dragon Archfiend Tzolkin build. I know how weird that sounds, but you know. So, I want to give a disclaimer. Just due to the natures of resonators and in general, you will have a pretty decent chance of breaking. It's really easy to break in this deck, at least for me. I don't know about you, but that's just my experience. And there's not much you can really do about it. So I decided to go ahead and give a deck profile on this because I've been really into this deck and it's really fun. I find it very exciting to play. So first we have triple Perform H damage juggler. Two reasons. First, it lets us search out Perform H hat trigger. Second, it lets us make plays off of Chaos Ruler, the chaotic magical dragon. And third of all, its effective discard itself to negate a burn damage or battle damage is also really nice. Next, Perform Mage Hat Trigger. Perform Mage Hat Trigger, just have two or more monsters on the field, special summon. Doesn't activate it, very important. The rest of it, meaningless. So yeah, next, Wandering King Wildwind. Wildwind is another card that's actually really good in the deck. You just have to control one of your tuners. You can special summon this card, which again doesn't activate it, but you do get locked into synchros for the rest of the turn when you special summon it by its own effect. And then during the main phase, except the turn it was sent to the graveyard, you can banish it, add a Fiend Tuner with 1500 or less attack from your deck to your hand. So pretty nice search power. 3, Witch of the Black Forest. Witch of the Black Forest is actually a pretty good card in this deck, just because you can easily chain block cards like Ash Blossom in this deck because of this, or if you wanted to protect this card, so from Ash Blossom, it's really easy to do. You just, if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, add a monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand, which allows us to search any of our monsters that's in the main deck. But you can't activate that card's effects with that name for the rest of the turn, which is perfectly fine because Wild Wind does not activate to special summon itself, as well as Perform H Hat Trigger, so. As well as, I believe, Synchron Resonator? Yeah. So, as well as Creation Resonator, so you can literally search these cards, and it won't bother the deck any. Next, Crimson Resonator. You control no monsters, you special summon this card from your hand. This does activate, mind you, so don't search Crimson Resonator off of Witch of the Black Forest. Sorry, I had a hard time saying that for some reason. Next, if the only other monster you control is a Dark Dragon Synchro monster, you can special summon up to 2 Resonator monsters from your hand or deck, except itself. It has a hard once per turn on both its special summon effect and its special summoning 2 tuners effect. Yeah. Which, by the way, this card is actually really good because this can let us go into double Resonator, which actually lets us go into Ultimate Tzolkin. So, 3 red Resonator. Most people probably run 2 at most. I prefer the 3 just because it's one of those good starting cards that just can get your combo started. And it's because of that alone. That's why I run 3. You normal summon this, you can special summon a level 4 or lower monster from your hand. Which, by the way, pretty generic. When this card is special summoned, you can target a face-up monster on the field. Gain life points equal to its attack. You can only use that effect of it once per turn. Pretty nice. Pretty nice. Synchron Resonator. If you control a Synchro monster, you can special summon it. Then if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target a Resonator monster in your graveyard and accept itself. And add it to your hand. Pretty nice. Creation Resonator, we run this as a one-of, but realistically, there's not much need for this card in my opinion. But sometimes just having that level 3 does help. So, control a level 8 or higher synchro monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Pretty cool. Double Resonator, if it's normal summon or special summon, you can target a face-up monster on the field. It's treated as tuner this turn. Pretty cool. And then you can banish it from the graveyard to target a fiend monster you control, and that fiend monster is treated as a tuner this turn. It's, like I said, this card does allow you to go into Tzolkin through playing 2 Red Rising Dragons during your turn, and turning one of them into a tuner through Red Resonator, or Double Resonator, sorry. Next, it's actually like Crimson Resonator plus any level 4s can actually net you, well, can pretty much net you a Tzolkin play. And the best part about that is you can just play this as a normal RDA deck as well. So, boom. Next, onto spells, we have 3 Resonator Call. Add a Resonator from your deck to your hand. Resonator monster from your deck to your hand. Obviously, Crimson, Red, Synchron, Creation, and Double Resonator you can add. Most of the time you're adding either Crimson Resonator or Red Resonator though. Very rarely Synchron Resonator, kind of depends on what's going on. Perform a Pal Popper Up, which, by the way, fantastic card in this deck. You can send up to 3 cards from your hand to the graveyard to draw that many cards, and then special summon that many monsters from your hand with different names that are Performa Pals, Magicians, or Odd Eyes monsters. Between a level of Pendulum Scales. If you don't, you lose 1,000 life points for each card in your hand. You can only activate 1 per turn. Really good because we can send away Perform Mage Damage Juggler to search the Hat Trigger. We can also send Metalfoes Fusion to be able to draw another card. We can send Lost Winds to trigger Tzolkin on opponent's turn, for example. And same with Red Rain. So it has quite a few uses, just in terms of sending something away. Next, Foolish Burial Goods. The 1 copy because you really only need 1. Like, realistically. Because you can just send a Lost Wind to the graveyard or a Red Rain. Most of the time it's going to be either Metalfoes Fusion or Red Rain. Very rarely Lost Wind. Metalfoes Fusion because you can just shuffle it back into your deck and draw a card. It's pretty good until you end up drawing into it, but you know, it is what it is. At that point, right? Monster Reborn, just staple. Lost Wind, target a special summoned monster on the field, negate its effects, and its original attack is halved. Then if a monster is special summoned from your opponent's extra deck while this is in the graveyard, you can set this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. Again, you can trigger Ultimate Tzolkin on opponent's turn, which is, by the way, really good. Because then it lets us go into Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon for free. Scrap Iron Signal, we just have to control a Synchro monster that lists a Synchro monster as a material, negate the activation of a monster effect, then set it. Instead of sending it to the graveyard, only it can activate 1 per turn. Again, triggering Tzolkin. Synchro Transmission, 2 copies of Synchro Transmission. During the main phase, you can activate this card, Synchro summon 1 Synchro monster using monsters you control, which is meant to kind of help with the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity plays, so, which is still viable. At the same time, we can banish this card from our graveyard to target a Synchro monster in our graveyard, return to the extra deck, then draw a card. We're mostly using it for its second effect, but also the first effect is also pretty nice. Synchro Call, basically the same as Synchro, what am I talking about now? Synchro Call, basically the same as Synchro Transmission, except it brings back a monster and you have to use that monster you brought back to Synchro summon with. Yeah, immediately. Which again, Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity on opponent's turn, pretty damn good. So it just gives us a little extra oomph if we want to go down that route. Red Rain, you control a level 8 or higher synchro monster. Banish all monsters on the field except monsters with the highest level. Also, the remaining monsters on the field are unaffected by other card effects except their own until the end of the turn. Pretty dumb card. It really is. If a Dark Dragon Synchro monster is synchro summoned to your field while this is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand, and you can only use that effect of it once per turn. So, pretty good. Into the extra deck, one RDA Tzolkin. You can only go into it really once, but you know how it is. You set a spell trap, you can special summon a level 7 or 8 Dragon Synchro or a Power Tool Synchro monster from your extra deck. Pretty good. King Calamity. When you synchro summon it, you can activate this effect. For the rest of the turn, your opponent can't activate cards, and your opponent can't respond, cannot activate their effects. And your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation. That's really all you're using it for. Its second effect to inflict burn when it destroys a monster by battle is 8, and its floating effect is also nice. So, 2 Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Bane. You really only probably need one, but I'm running the 2 because it just feels good to run a second copy if things hit the fan, right? You can tribute a monster, target a Red Dragon Archfiend in your graveyard. Red Dragon Archfiend monster in your graveyard, special summon it, which by the way comes up a lot in this deck. When it inflicts battle damage to the opponent, you can special summon 2 tuners with the same level, one from your deck, one from the graveyard, in defense position. So it's pretty good. So it kind of feels its own effect in a way. Hot Red, 2 Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. You can just quick effect, target a face-up card on the opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of the turn. Pretty nice. When it inflicts battle damage to the opponent as well, you can target 1 tuner in your graveyard, special summon it in defense. You can only use each of its effects once per turn. So it's free negation. Next, Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon. Synchro summon it, you can activate the top 5 cards of your deck, and if you do, add 1 activated light or dark monster from your hand, sending the rest to the graveyard. So this card can actually let you extend your plays a little bit, just by excavating away a damage juggler. Excuse me, sorry about that. Wandering King Wildwind is also another good card to search off of it. So, like I said, it can just let you go into extenders, which is always nice. What makes this card even better is the fact that it can revive itself by banishing a light or dark monster from your hand and or graveyard. But it banishes itself when it leaves the field. So if you rather run 3 of these, I'd recommend it. 2 Crystal Wing Synchro Dragons. Realistically, you probably only really need 1, but it's nice to have 2 because you're typically playing them off the RDA Tzolkin. Now, mind you, this deck may seem like it can play into Crystal Wing naturally. You do get locked into Dark Dragon Synchros through stuff like Crimson Resonator. And I believe Wild Wind? No, not Wild Wind. I think there was like another card. Oh, right. I remember now. So it's just free monster negation. Pretty nice. Next, 3 Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend is just for pure flavor. It's not really an RDA deck without this card, so it kind of feels like you have to play it. But if you want to get a little bit better, I'd recommend only really needing at the most 2 of these, and then having another Chaos Ruler is an option. So next, Red Rising Dragon, synchro summon it. You can target a Resonator in your graveyard, special summon it, but you're locked into Dark Dragon Synchro monsters for the rest of the turn. If you don't use that effect, and you then lock yourself through Crimson Resonator either, you can go into Crystal Wing naturally, but most of the time you're getting locked. Now, onto the side deck. These are just some options that you can run. I wanted to provide because I did a lot of testing, and these were just some cards I felt like I wanted to talk about. First, Allure of Darkness, you have plenty of dark monsters, so if you'd rather run this over Popper Up, you can. Pot of Desires, again, if you rather run Pot of Desires over Popper Up, you can. Should be fine. Keyword should. Desire, or Prosperity, sorry. It's just a really strong card. And while it may seem like you need a lot of these, you do run a lot of extra copies of certain things, so you can actually get away with getting rid of like 3 cards in your extra deck. Not necessarily 6, but yeah. Next, Red Supernova Dragon. While this card is pretty nice, it does require 3 tuners to play, and at the same time, if your opponent's monster effect is activated, or when they declare an attack, you can banish it, and then banish everything your opponent controls. It's an alright card. I mean, it's not bad, but it just requires a lot. I like it, but if you'd rather not go into the Ultima Tzolkin plays, or if you think that triple Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend is a little too much, and you want to play this card, you can. Now, if you don't want to play Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiends, you can, like I said, you should probably play 3 Chaos Rulers, but you only really need 2 at the most. But Dark End Dragon could be an option, where you can target a monster on the field your opponent controls, make this card lose 500 attack and defense, and then send that target to the graveyard. Just sends. But it does target, so I mean, it kind of depends on what you want. Stardust Dragon on the opponent's turn through Tzolkin might be a play if you're worrying about stuff like Lightning Storm or Raigeki and the likes. So, and then Hand Destruction. You probably don't really want to run this, but this is another option instead of Popper Up. But this does require your opponent to have the proper amount of cards in hand, so I don't really recommend this. Now, with that being said, you can actually play this deck as a Tzolkin build. You can go for the Tzolkin plays really easily, or you can just play it as a normal RDA deck with a Tzolkin on the side. You can really go either way. And with that being said, let's head on over to see how much it would cost you to build this deck. Okay, everyone, we are back with the price for Ultimate Tzolkin. Hopefully, yeah. So what you're seeing on screen is, at the top, is the grand total of how much the entire deck will cost you with multiple copies of cards, while the prices you see for the individual cards are for only 1 copy, just so you can kind of gauge how much each card is going to cost you. The more expensive cards are going to be starting off with Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon. It is such a really good Dragon Synchro level 8. You know, it's just super good, and I only see its price going up from here. Until it gets a reprint, if you can wait, I'd recommend waiting. The other most expensive card is Wandering King Wildwind, and it hasn't had a reprint in a while, which is why it's about $15 a piece. And same, I think, with Creation Resonator. I think it only had 1 printing, but I could be wrong on that one. But, you know, every deck is going to have its more expensive cards, so with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile, and I do hope that what you're seeing is a deck that you might consider playing or even considering IRL. So, I want you all to have a great night, or morning, or afternoon, you know, whatever. And don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, or even tell a friend. Bye-bye.